My name is Santosh and I'm from DBE19 Advanced Diploma of Biomedical Engineering, and I'm going to present on brain mapping. So in the figure what we can see is we can see some neurons and a connection. It may look like a electrical wiring diagram, but in fact it is what happens inside our brain. So it is basically a representative image of how information or brain mapping is done. Moving on to the next slide, I'll explain things about brain mapping. So brain mapping, basically this is a scientific study of structure and function of the brain. So how it is done is it focuses on how different areas of our brain organize and contribute through movements and behaviors. The main aim of brain mapping is to understand which anatomical locations are responsible for different abilities. For example, what brain portion would control speech or memory or vision and so on. Because the brain is very complex, scientists use advanced imaging technologies such as MRI, fMRI, PET, EEG, DTI. All these abbreviations are explained further in other slides. So these techniques, what they do is they allow the researchers to see both the structure and activity of the brain in some real time. So um, the finding the wiring diagram in the brain. So it is analogical to a wiring diagram what we see in electrical circuits. These are basically how neurons they communicate to each other and how they connect to each other. So this connectivity map is basically what we refer as brain mapping. So on to the next slide. So this is basically a structure of the brain and how things undergo in there. So basically we're looking at different portions of the brain, and so basically when what happens when the blood flows and when there's a glucose utilization and stuff. So this is basically a functional brain imaging that was taken from one of the cases. So this is one of the portions of brain mapping. Okay, moving on to the next. So there are many important applications of brain mapping in medicine and research. So one of the most important ones, why scientists are so behind getting this brain mapping sorted, is they want to diagnose neurodegenerative disease as Alzheimer's and epilepsy. So what basically happens is by studying brain activity and structure, the doctors can determine some abnormal patterns and identify the damaged areas early to prevent further damage. So the researchers or the scientists are also working towards creating a complete brain map, and this is built from brain data of a large population. It's basically a statistical process. So this is a complex and ongoing process, but eventually in the future it could lead us to understand how every part of the brain connects and functions. Now, in terms of current trends, one of the exciting areas is the development of brain-computer interfaces, or which is known as BCIs. So these basically allow for direct communication between the brain and an external computer or device. Also, we can see with the advancement in artificial intelligence, this can also help to analyze large amount of brain data and do it more accurately than it has ever been. Also, there are significant challenges brain mapping may face, and one of the most important ones is obviously ethical concerns with privacy and high data use. So people are concerned if their data and privacy is going to be stolen, as is happening now. Um, so also this involves high cost of technology and overall complexity of the whole process, because it's a complex process. Moving on to the next, in this slide I've tried to explain more about mind mapping and brain mapping. Both of them have their advantage and disadvantage, of course. So mind mapping is a simple and creative way which helps us to organize the ideas, but it often looks cluttered and lacks strong um, strong scientific or empirical basis. And for the domain, so it is cognitive and educational, whereas brain mapping is more related to biological and neuroscientific uses. These are different methods that we use for mind mapping and brain mapping, and obviously the type of data used is one of the major differences. And obviously mind mapping is more used by students and professionals, whereas brain mapping is more of a scientist and clinician thing. So I have tried to explain some limitations and challenges of both. So as I previously explained, mind mapping may look a bit cluttered and lack bit of a strong and empirical basis. It can be quite subjective at times. On the other hand, brain mapping, as previously explained, it can be a costly process and it is still ongoing process. So there's no complete understanding. Rather, there's a partial understanding of how things work, and it is a complex process. And as explained, there may be ethical limitations to how far this can go in future. But we can be assured that both of them do require context awareness and interpretation. So I finished my presentation in here. Thank you, and any questions, more than happy to answer. Thank you.